Good morning, Bitcoiners. I hope you're doing well. I'm loving my life. Who could complain on a day like today? I'm not going to be the one. It's not going to be me. I hope you're all doing great, folks. We're going to be doing a short one today because I've got a podcast to go record at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. But glad you all made it early this morning, and we're going to go over the resumption of the 58K gang. We're back together, 58K gang. Under muted. No, shouldn't be muted. Shouldn't be muted. Let me know if I'm muted for all of you, because on mine it says I'm not. And I'm seeing, sorry, audio good. Okay, good. That's what I thought. That's what I thought, Lee J369. I was muted at the very beginning. I'm still adjusting the studio. Probably not going to keep this studio going in the sense that I'm on Restream. I'm going to go back to the Rumble one. I think the reason I'm staying on this Restream from the old broadcast is because it does those clips for me automatically, and it creates a transcript. So I need those things kind of right now. But I do want to get your comments back to being live on screen, that I can just share them. So that's what I like about the Rumble Studio. As you all know, I don't get the comments coming in the way I'd like here. We've been dealing with that for a little while. But there you all are. I see your comments. People are around, having a good time. Saguenay 55, bon fête de la Saint-Jean. Saguenay 55, j'espère que c'était bon pour toi. Moi, j'étais dans la campagne, à la campagne, une party de natation, swimming party. It was very fun. We've had wonderful, wonderful summer temperatures here in Quebec. Having a great time. We're on our way to New York. Pardon me, New York for a little bit, but Vermont as well. Golden Age is here. The Golden Age mascot is back. The only one who says Golden Age more than me. And boy, are we going to be talking about the Golden Age today. The Golden Age, brought to you by Sailor. They're going to have to build statues to that old sailor. Thoughts on using Bitcoin as collateral for loans, BTC Plebinator asks. I don't do it. I thought I was stupid for so long for not doing it. In the last, I don't know, couple of years. Now I'm very glad I didn't do it. I never stopped just straight up selling Bitcoin when needed. For a number of reasons. Some of the Bitcoin, most of the Bitcoin is from before anyone was asking about Bitcoin. So, there's a bunch of reasons why around that. So I never went the loan route, and I'm pretty glad about it. But I'm going to talk about it today, BTC Plebinator, in the sense that it is the trade that people are going to use to leverage into the Golden Age. So today you see the title is Accelerationism versus the Cloward-Piven. I don't know how to pronounce it. The Cloward-Piven strategy, which is more or less just accelerationism. As you all know, the Cloward-Piven strategy is to overwhelm welfare and then collapse the system so you can have a communist government. What I'm going to talk about today is kind of the reverse end of that. It is the misallocation of capital all over the place and as a form of accelerationism in order to realign the system. Whereas the windfall in the Cloward-Piven strategy goes to the top-down communist experts. Ours here is going to go to the builders. So we'll talk about all that. You're speaking a strange Canadian language. Why, Chef Zero? Why? Why do they call them frogs? You say, bah, why? That's yes, by the way. Yes is why. Sounds a lot like the Budweiser, the old commercial. If you guys don't remember, Zer, Bud, Zer. That is often how our Scottish version of French goes here. Canadian French is the most beautiful language. I like it. I like it. I'll admit it's better on a dude than on a chick. but we love Canadian French. If you like Scottish English, you ought to like Canadian French. If you like Scottish English, Canadian French is the French version of that. Châtelet, Nolan, hope you enjoyed your time off. Barely 45. You got the day off, but the Senate, they got almost 3 weeks. Bitcoiners actually like to work. We are going to be taking a bunch. We're not going to be around much next week, I'll be honest. I got to go to New York. I got to go to Vermont. I got to go to the townships. I'm not going far, but with all of the 4th of Julying and 1st of Julying and all of that stuff, I'm going to be a little busy next week. So, and not going to be a lot of news, I don't think, other than 58K gang back and blah, blah, blah. So next week's a little sketchy. We should get into our normal strategy sessions, our normal morning stuff the week after. But it is summer, so work is play, thankfully. Exactly. So there's, we're going to be taking a little bit of a down gearing, shifting a little bit over the summer. But we'll ramp up once things get aligned. Speaking of aligned, I checked this morning. The Sun Tech totally aligned. It's working. It's operational. There it is. I also checked. Bitcoin is running, everybody. We're at 59,000. The 58K gang is devastated as we've gone up to 59,000 US trash tokens per Bitcoin. We're doing great. Let's have a coffee. Talk about what's new. Now, here's the thing, guys. We're going to start with some NPC news. As you know, Phoenix, Arizona, SunTech operational, says Sandek. We love the old SunTech from Phoenix. Speaking of all the SunTech, though, you guys know that I've been warning you about having a thermostat strategy for a long time. We've been talking about that thermostat strategy. What do you do when you get to the thermostat? And I know, some of it might have seemed redundant to you. Why is Nolan always talking about the thermostat strategy? Don't we notice the answer is always 78 degrees? Can we go a little faster? Do we have to keep talking about all of this strategy and what's going on with temperatures and how do we manage this stuff? Right? Everyone's been asking that. Hold on. What the hell is this? Why does it have all the wrong ones? Anyway, who cares? I'll just share this for now. So I've been telling you guys, right, all of this stuff about the thermostats. Well, this is why. If you don't come at this with a strategy, it's becoming political. Air conditioning creates political divide in France as France records its hottest day. So you're just sitting there willy-nilly living in your ivory tower, thinking you have it all figured out, right? But I'll remind you of the Mike Tyson, famous Mike Tyson expression. Everybody has a plan until you get punched in the face. All right. You go up there with your thermostat thinking you have it all figured out. Oh, I know what to do this time. Look at what's happening in France. It's becoming political. Look at what they did yesterday in France when they had new air conditioners delivered, right? These people had a strategy. This is what you need. This is what happens when stores open and they have new air conditioners for sale. They all have thermostats. Look at these people. They did their homework. They had a strategy. They know what to do. They have plans for that air conditioner. And here it is, guys. That's in France. Everyone excited, getting their air conditioner. They finally have cracked the code. They know what to do. Greta, not happy at all, but they don't care anymore. They have ideas. They're going to set the temperature. There you go. This one's great too. Democrats grapple uncomfortably with World Cup success. And here's what's going on. I think there was a little bit of I got to read it like a 12-year-old girl. I think there was like a little bit of like liberal wish casting that this would like maybe be like a disaster to sort of stick it to Trump. Said Rob Flaherty, the digital Democratic strategist and soccer fan who attended the U.S. group stage match with Australia. It hasn't been yet. I think there was like a little bit of like liberal wish casting. that this would maybe be a disaster to sort of stick it to Trump. Rob, his name's Rob. Imagine speaking like that and your name is Rob. Imagine getting quoted with a like in the newspaper. Well, nobody reads the newspaper. No big deal. Like. So there you go. That's what's going on. That is our fake news of the day. When Vermont John C919 asks, probably Tuesday. Do you see MSTR being absorbed by the U.S. government and becoming the strategic reserve? BTC Plebinator asks. Yeah, there's a good chance of that. We'll talk about it. I don't know about good chance. Sorry, that's. I mean, I'm 50-50 because I could see why. I just don't know what the odds are. I believe the U.S. strategic reserve is probably going to have a lot in it. I feel like all that Venezuela, I feel like they got a lot of shit coins from Iran, stable coins from Iran. We're going to talk about Besant today as well. Jack2K says, Nolan, we definitely need a thermostat experts update for states. No data yet. Haven't been provided for the NBCs to know how to proceed. I know, exactly. What is the mental capability? It just sounds so stupid. What happened to these folks? Well, they're hot. They're hot. Okay, that's what we got. Okay, let's talk about the 58K gang first. I just want to go over some of the details that I see. So here's everyone. Bitcoin's dead, obviously. Mark Cuban says it's dead. Portnoy says it's dead. I don't know the other guy. I forget who this guy is. And then this guy, I remember from years ago, doesn't he have the worst physiognomy, this guy? Doesn't he just seem like one of these frustrated traders or something, this guy here? And then Choose Rich, like to see him back in character. This is really great stuff. Choose Rich making videos again. I'm glad to see it. People can take it as a bad sign, but Choose Rich has a pretty nasty case of cancer, apparently. So you love to see him performing and not giving us his cancer updates. I'm going to say it's good news for Choose Rich. I've never met Choose Rich, but I saw it as an act from day one. So I was, that when he had to take the mask off for a few seconds with the cancer, I thought that was great. Just to see what he was really like. I wish the best for him, but there he is saying, arrest Sailor. How is this guy will kill him? Very good stuff. Here's all the Bitcoin is dead guys. So all, keep the stuff they're saying, keep the receipts, save all of these. BitPain says, Thread Guy explains why the market won't let Bitcoin recover while Sailor's still in. If you put a gun to your head and ask what makes a real emphatic bottom for Bitcoin, it's strategy, deleveraging, forced selling of Bitcoin, and Michael Saylor on trial for financial crimes. It's financial crimes. That's what they're going with now. So here's what we know. And I get, these were the two sort of best analyses I saw. Nick Carter took a stab. Nick Carter here took a, pretty interesting look at what's going on. Basically trying to analyze and target the STRC demand out there and what the normal benchmark for STRC yield would be. So here he is saying, what his limitations are. Think from the perspective of a junk bond investor, what required rate of return would you require to hold the riskiest part, STRC, of the teetering edifice that is MSTR, subordinated under other real debt? So he does a pretty good analysis here, but the best guy in the business, Thomas Brazil here. So I had dinner with Thomas Brazil just before the RFK keynote in 2023. And this would have been the time where the FTX, any one of the bankruptcies that happened in the 2022 crash, Thomas Brazil, I think, bought almost everything from FTX or represented the people that bought everything. He is probably the greatest distressed assets market guy in the world. That's what people say. So he was behind all the Mt. Gox stuff. So his business is to go around and look for distressed assets and then buy them at pennies on the dollar and then hope it works out. So he does a lot of work in bankruptcy stuff. So because you don't know what you're going to get out of bankruptcy, right? You don't know what's still around and blah, blah, blah. So he'll go in and make claims on bankruptcy stuff. So he was making claims on Mt. Gox stuff. He made so many claims that he kind of had to disappear after Mt. Gox because the kidnapping types would know just how rich this guy got out of that. He was getting redemptions of Bitcoin from the bankruptcy stuff at the peak of the 2020, whenever the thing was finally, shut down, closed up, whatever they did in like 2024, 2025 period. He was getting Bitcoin that he paid hundreds of dollars for and was able to, now it was worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. So just to give you a sense of who this guy, Thomas Brazil, is, right? So I had dinner with him. I've stayed in pretty close touch with him ever since. So we probably DM every couple of months. We chat about things here and there. Here he says, I like Nick and generally agree with a lot of his work. So now Thomas Brazil here in this little thing is going to give an idea of what's actually going on the part of STRC from his point of view as someone who invests in this distressed economy type of stuff, the bankruptcy stuff and blah, blah, blah. And here's what he says about STRC and what's going on. He says, I like Nick and generally agree with a lot of his work, but I think he's using the wrong framework here. This isn't a CCC bond. It's distressed special situations security. I've spent the better part of 2 decades in distressed credit and roughly the past 12 years buying distressed crypto. I've competed with or worked alongside many of the largest distressed investors. When I ask myself who the marginal buyer of STRC is today, it isn't a traditional high yield fund. It's an opportunistic credit fund. Those funds don't wake up looking for 15% returns. They generally need 30+% IRRs before they commit capital with something this uncertain. Today, you can buy government refund claims targeted at 10 to 15%. Distressed crypto claims with recoveries denominated in dollars and often substantial collateral protection for 20 to 25%. STRC is riskier than both, he says. You're subordinated. There are essentially no meaningful lender protections. The dividend is non-cumulative. The collateral is one volatile asset. There is negative convexivity. And unlike a traditional distressed loan, you don't control the collateral or have meaningful enforcement rights. This isn't lending against Bitcoin. It's taking directional Bitcoin exposure through a structurally weak preferred security. There's an important distinction people miss. Common shareholders have a fiduciary relationship with management, creditors don't. Management's job is to obtain the cheapest possible financing for shareholders, not to create an attractive security for creditors. To Strategy's credit, they did exactly that. They issued extraordinary issuer-friendly paper because the market let them. Good for them. But once that paper leaves the hands of income-oriented crypto investors, who is the next buyer? That's the question. And that's kind of where we're in right now. I think it's an opportunistic distressed investor, and that buyer isn't showing up for 15 to 20% required return. They're looking for something closer to a 30% plus IRR. At an 11.5% coupon, that implies a price of roughly 38 US trash tokens versus about 76.67 for a 15% yield and 57.50 for a 20% yield. Maybe 30% isn't exactly the right number. Maybe it's 35, maybe it's 40, he says. But I think anchoring this off CCC spreads misses who the actual marginal buyer is. So I wanted to describe all of this to show you that, first of all, everything I think Saylor's doing makes sense, especially if you compare the difference between where the yield actually is and where it's coming from and what actually has loans against it and claims against it. It's not the STRC. So there, the thing can just go down in price and you just you're naked, right? Because they can remove the yield, they can drop it to zero and do all these things. But the profile of the STRC buyer is what's important here. And that's what you heard Brazil say he got wrong. But, to go back to this whole idea, what I see happening and go back to this frame that he has here, what kind of return they need, the special situations security, distressed special situations security. So remember that what you see from Saylor here is not just a financial engineering maneuver inside of the Bitcoin world. This is really about this attack on the US dollar and the attack on the way fiat actually works, the debt instruments, because it is debt, don't forget, right? The specie itself of the money is debt. And so when Saylor is talking about this, he's not talking about some little marginal change. He's talking about structural change to the entire market, how credit works, how debt works, how all of this functions. And because it's such a huge bet that he's making, it is a special situation. And not just that it's a special situation in a purely financial flow kind of way. It's also a kind of bet on the future. And here's Saylor talking about what is coming from all of this stuff. And it is exactly what we've been saying. This is accelerationism in a certain sense. This is using financial engineering to destroy financial engineering. This goes back to the Vietnam, that they use it as an example of hypocrisy, but it's I had to destroy the village to save the village. We're going to talk more about that in a second with the Cloward-Piven strategy and how it relates to communism. But this is kind of the same thing. The Cloward-Piven strategy in communism, if you've never heard of it, it's overwhelm the welfare system so that people want this new, one world government. What Michael Saylor is doing is kind of a Cloward-Piven strategy in the sense that it is use financial engineering to destroy financial engineering and replace it with something else. Replace it really with the entire model we see around Bitcoin mining already. And of course, I've told you many times for a whole year now that it's useful to think of the AI build out and the AI financing build out from a Bitcoin lens, because it is a very similar model. It's a very similar logic. And that is here what Michael Saylor is saying. Justin Wu says, good morning, friends. New statement coming from Michael. He is being bullish on AI. Michael Saylor isn't looking at where capital is today. He's looking at it where it's going next. So just as the SpaceX IPO was a narrative IPO, it was a psychological peg, it was about betting on an entire new future. That is more or less what Michael Saylor is doing here too. This is about his belief in a Bitcoin future, and he's making those bets with conviction and not just words and speaking. He's putting all of his money into it, right? There's no one else who's going more all in than this. Right now, billions are pouring into OpenAI, Anthropic, and SpaceX. Most people see money leaving Bitcoin. Saylor sees future Bitcoin demand being created in real time. Every AI breakthrough creates new wealth, and every new fortune eventually looks for a store of value. That's why Saylor calling it a capital rotation, not a Bitcoin impairment. AI boom may be funding Bitcoin's next wave of buyers. Pierre Rochard says much the same here. The attractive time to accumulate monetary savings is usually when the dominant marketed narrative is elsewhere. Today, that narrative is AI. Capital is crowded into the tickers that have already won the story. Bitcoin, meanwhile, is being treated as yesterday's trade, a volatile asset waiting for easier money. And he calls it here the same thing, the great capital rotation from software surplus to AI absorption and back to Bitcoin. This is what we've been talking about here for a long time. The last great technology boom was a deflationary miracle disguised as a venture capital frenzy. The next one is an industrial build out disguised as software. And that's exactly what we've been talking about. It's all about the energy. That difference explains a great deal about why Bitcoin thrived in the 2010s, why its returns have been more muted in the higher rate AI capex heavy 2020s, and why the next major capital rotation may be ferocious. In 2011, Mark Andreessen captured the spirit of the coming decade with the line, software is eating the world. The core idea was not merely that software companies would become valuable. It was that software would invade every incumbent industry because distribution, computing, and startup formation had become radically cheaper. Andreessen noted that a basic internet application that costs roughly 150,000 US trash tokens per month to run in 2000 would cost about 1,500 a month in Amazon's cloud by 2011. That was the economic engine of the 2010s, a global market, near zero marginal distribution, scalable code, and dramatically lower infrastructure requirements for startups. But of course, what we're seeing here, Bitcoin was one of the great beneficiaries of that environment, but the 2020s changed the weather. After the pandemic stimulus boom, inflation returned and the Federal Reserve moved rates sharply higher. Even after subsequent cuts, the current target range remains far above the zero rate world that characterized much of the prior cycle. Fred shows the upper bound of the federal funds target at 3.75 as of June 2026. And we talk about the stuff all the time. At the same time, that's the interest rates and when they're going to come down, and people talking hawkish. And that's what you heard from Pierre in the lead up to this. The leading technology narrative changed from software leverage to AI infrastructure. The AI boom is not merely another app store cycle. It's a race for chips, data centers, energy contracts, cooling systems, transmission capacity, and specialized human talent. Goldman Sachs research, blah, blah, blah. We know how big it is. This is the crucial contrast. The software eats the world era multiplied companies without forcing every investor to finance a new power grid. The AI era is absorbing savings directly into physical bottlenecks. GPUs are expensive, data centers are expensive, power is expensive. But again, what I've been saying is this is the world of Bitcoin. They're moving the financial engineering exactly into the territory that we already understand. And that is the bet that Michael Saylor is making, that the actual fundamentals of the market, the right, wrong, up, down, the definitions, the reality of the market are going to align with the world that Bitcoiners are already working in market-wise. And so when you see the talk of Besant, for example, the other day, Besant gave this great speech. Again, we've been talking about the Hamiltonian aspect of all of this, the build aspect of this versus the financial engineering aspect. And here's the Secretary of the Treasury saying exactly that. We have rediscovered at great cost what America First Treasury Secretary Alexander Hamilton taught us. The nation that depends on its adversaries for critical inputs is neither truly sovereign nor truly industrious. He says here, as we approach 250 years of American independence, we should do well to remember that our founders left us more than a republic. They bequeathed a roadmap powerful enough to sustain it for 2.5 centuries and beyond, and that is all about the actual building component. And here, James E. Thorne says exactly that, the end of financial engineering. And this is the world that we've been talking about for a long time here. We've been telling you we're getting out of the world where the best and brightest go into financial engineering. The best and brightest will go and be cattle ranchers if it's the highest paid job. They don't care. They're not political about this stuff. Whatever is the highest paying job, the best and brightest, the high IQs will go and do that job. And I've been saying for a long time, and this is the Cloward-Piven strategy again. This is the same thing the communists are trying, overwhelm the system. But this is what Saylor is also doing with this big bet against the dollar, with this big bet, not just against the dollar. The dollar will have its continuation. It will go into this bimetallic system. You're going back to the dollar milkshake world. I've been telling you about dollar milkshake forever, but that's what bimetallism really is. It's a US dollar wiping out the fiat Ponzi schemes around the world, absorbing all of the fiat Ponzi's into the dollar, and eventually the dollar gets absorbed into Bitcoin, and we move to a full Bitcoin standard, but not before we go through this era of bimetallism. So it is, again, go back to the Vietnam analogy. We had to bomb the town to save the town. Well, we had to financially engineer to stop financial engineering. And that's what you're seeing. It's the same accelerationism, Cloward-Piven strategy. It's all the same thing in the sense that you run the machine so hot that it breaks and you can't fix it anymore. And that is what Saylor is doing. And he's doing it with financial engineering to destroy financial engineering. James E. Thorne says, for the first time in over a decade, the center of gravity in American capitalism is shifting from financial engineering to the real economy. For years, the dominant corporate playbook. Now, again, I've told you for years that Bitcoin is manipulated all the time, heavily, by the people who hold a lot, by the people who believe in these narratives, who get caught up in these narratives. The Bitcoin protocol, of course, not manipulated. Bitcoin blockchain, what we know, the ledger, none of that is manipulated. But the actual exchange is manipulated. The price is manipulated. You get all kinds of people in there manipulating it. They end up getting burnt by manipulating it in each different era. But again, coming back to this world of financial engineers manipulating it, in the future, we're moving to the real economy. So now it will be the miners. The miners are way less incentivized to manipulate Bitcoin. So it's a new group that's going to be really controlling how huge sums flow and the rest of it. Now, Saylor will be a part of this, of course. The dominant corporate playbook was simple. Keep capital expenditure lean, recycle excess cash into share buybacks, and let multiple expansion and shrinking share counts do the heavy lifting. This is what Saylor learned already didn't work. That's why he used financial engineering and Bitcoin. He leveraged Bitcoin, literally leveraged Bitcoin in order to run this attack. CapEx was treated as a drag. Buybacks were hailed as shareholder discipline. That framework is now colliding with a new political and strategic reality. Scott Bessent has given the shift its intellectual anchor, invoking Alexander Hamilton's dictum that every nation ought to endeavor to possess within itself all the essentials of a national supply. The point is not autarky. It is that a nation cannot remain prosperous, secure, and sovereign if it outsources the foundations of industrial power. That is also the logic of Trump's America First economics, reshoring supply chains, rebuilding manufacturing, expanding energy production, and accelerating permit all push capital toward productive assets at home rather than paper gains on the balance sheet. The policy hierarchy is clear. National resilience, industrial capacity, and worker prosperity come before abstract efficiency. Trump has also long complained that buybacks reward executives more than workers. Whether one agrees with every formulation or not, the instinct captures something important about this moment. The old model favored balance sheet management over capital formation. The emerging one rewards building. The AI build-out makes the investment case obvious. Markets can punish rising capex and reduced buybacks, but the capital is not disappearing. It is moving into concrete, steel, copper, power, logistics, and machinery. Again, this is a perfect storm for Bitcoin. This is the future we're literally betting on and have bet on from the beginning. I tell people all the time, we want to end when people ask me what the difference between crypto and Bitcoin are, I always give the simplest answer, right? Which is that in the world of crypto, people really do believe that although before you needed a 130 IQ to compete against the financial engineers, you had to get a Series 7 license and all that. The crypto people from the very beginning have saying, no, not just a 130 IQ, add another 10 points. You need a 140 IQ. And along with your Series 7 license and your economics degree, you got to go get a computer science degree and you got to run a node and understand how to do minor extracted value and blah, blah, blah. You have to be a computer science specialist. I've always used that contrast to say that's the difference between Ethereum and all the crypto shitcoins and Bitcoin. Bitcoin simply wants to make saving money easier and lower the IQ required to participate in the economy. And it's a huge difference. One is saying more financial engineers, the other is saying less financial engineers. And that's why Bitcoin in this case is so different. And now when we see what AI is doing, AI is incentivizing the Bitcoin worldview. It is aligned with the Bitcoin worldview. It is opposite to crypto. There's nothing in AI that wants more complicated transaction externalities just to swap fucking shitcoins. They don't care about that stuff. So when we see here investors who cling to low capex, high buyback playbook are effectively betting on a shrinking productive base in a world that is relearning the value of physical capacity. And that's exactly why it is a better opportunity to invest where capital is flowing, that companies and sectors building the real economy and Bitcoiners are already there. It's a big distinction and an important point, right? And again, seeing the Treasury Secretary do that, seeing him mentioned Bessent's framework, the monetary revolt, why all this stuff is important, why building is more important than financial engineers, right? There's also a Jacksonian undertone. Trump's America First framework, like Andrew Jackson's campaign against the second bank, reflects a deep skepticism of concentrated financial power insulated from democratic accountability. In this view, expanding channels of credit, public and private alike, becomes a way to outflank entrenched financial intermediaries and redirect capital toward national priorities. That's already what's been happening. That's the world of private credit is exactly what Saylor is rebuilding. That's why Saylor and the AI piece are aligned. That's why anyone who's betting against Saylor right now, realize what you're betting against is the entire narrative around AI, the entire shift in financial engineering. You're betting against a guy who's leveraging financial engineering to destroy financial engineering once and for all. And, seeing this, right, the wager that it can be done, the regime shift, right? The target is a broader regime shift where credit creation channeled through both markets and institutions supports productive capital formation rather than asset inflation. I told you I had that lunch the other day with a lawyer here in Montreal, and a securities lawyer. and he was doing the old, what use case does it solve? And, I gave him a bunch of that, but you know how these people are, right? They don't want to hear it. And I gave him the one that I personally love. It is capital allocation, efficient capital allocation. No more capital to the latest dog dating app for people who have cut their genitals off but also own dogs and want to date. And so it's a new matchmaking, all these stupid apps you see out there that make no sense and nobody cares, and that are able to get these checks. And then the VCs, but that's all over now with the 0%, but it was going on for a long time. And seeing this now, seeing the world realign on what the vision of the future really is, right? It's why you see Kevin Warsh getting rid of all of this fake economic stuff, a new limited role for the Federal Reserve. We are moving in every single way that Bitcoiners are predicting into this new economy that Bitcoin has already been behind. So the price isn't really the story here. The story is what version of the future is going to be realized. And we're seeing from all of these angles, from the Federal Reserve angle, from the markets angle, from the VC angle, all of it is moving towards the real economy, to actually building and getting more energy out there. The Phillips curve was always stupid. We saw, just like cholesterol and heart disease, CO2, climate change, these simple models the technocratic elite swore by have done more damage in human history than anything else. We've broken the glass ceiling on diet with Maha. We're rejecting starving trees and ending the war on transportation. And now we can finally end the idiocy. The growth is the engine of inflation, when innovation curves unleashed are more powerful than monetary demand curves. It is about realigning the innovators. It is about that stuff. And, Trump gets it. Here's Chamath describing, people could say, does Trump understand the AI trade with energy and Bitcoin, right? Even Bitcoiners sometimes doubt Trump's actual intelligence. Here's Chamath telling everyone that not only is he smart, he's the smartest guy he's ever met when it comes to this. And he's the smartest guy when it comes exactly to this question about AI data centers. Maybe not smartest guy, but he gets it. He's not retarded, right? Here Chamath says, their incredible skills and how smart and intuitive they are. He says, it's not a pitch. I was just walking him through some structural issues in this specific case and electricity rates. So he's walking him through an AI data center, right? And the underlying reasons why, which have more to do with the utilities, data centers, water consumption, and then some structural decrease in Americans' electricity, right? It's like a 15-page deck, he says. And he's one of these guys where he's listening, he'll scan it, he's scanning it while he listens to you, and then he goes right to the one thing. And I have a lot of respect for this, because I've seen some of the most incredible survivors, the people that have that one skill. They can do it, and they can go to that thing, that little detail, that thread, and pull it. So my experience with him is quite impressive. When I anchor him to the other people I've been with, he's really up there. And, I like Chamath. And that's why Maryland Hoddle saying here, the war for conviction. The real battle isn't being fought against Bitcoin, but it is about conviction. So the real story, like I said, about the price of Bitcoin, and if you read this here from Maryland Hoddle, speculation, my opinion, my framework, but I think he's on to something here. Just like I said, you look at the price of Bitcoin, but remember, I just said that everything to do with the world that the Bitcoin miners, that Bitcoiners have been operating in, looks exactly like the world that AI is building. It looks like that is the shift, the regime change in the financial system. And Bitcoin is sitting there already telling you this world was coming, way ahead of AI even becoming apparent. So the alignment between AI, financial engineering, strategy, and what we're seeing with this regime change is that sailors bet, right? People can doubt it all they want, but Saylor underlining that financial engineering with this complete regime change in how we look at things means that the bets against it right now are just that people aren't seeing the connections, I think, between AI and Bitcoin. They will. They're going to become more and more apparent because, again, I'll remind you that all of the AI data centers getting built in America, all the hyperscalers getting built by Crusoe and Electron and all these other folks are all Bitcoiners building them. Chase Lockmiller, who's running Crusoe, who invented the stranded energy thesis in Bitcoin mining, is one of the biggest builders already of the AI data center stuff. I booked him for a 2017 show. He's been in Bitcoin forever. And he's just one example. He came back around into Bitcoin after he started the mining company and now building all these AI data centers. So you're going to continue to see more and more of this. And again, it's a race at this point. It's a race. And I've mentioned this race many times. The race is very simple. It's between this conviction that we have in ending financial engineering, overwhelming financial engineering, using this Bitcoin fiat attack, attacking fiat in order to create this new system and leverage this shifting system. Exactly what Michael Saylor is doing here. And so it is about visions of the future. Can we use accelerationism in the financial markets to destroy the financial markets? Michael Saylor says yes. Michael Saylor, even with all this trouble, says yes. So when I make the comparisons to the Cloward-Piven strategy, the Cloward-Piven strategy in communism is exactly the same thing. It's a type of accelerationism. It's burden the old system so much so that it breaks, and you get the new system naturally. So everyone is now trying to break the system as it is. One is trying to break the system to get more financial centralization. The other is trying to break the system to get less financial centralization. And the difference is the tools of either of these, right? The Michael Saylor piece, it's all obviously narrative driven, psychologically driven, but it has the added benefit of actually building things like energy systems, which will bring wealth to people. And the other piece, the communist Cloward-Piven strategy, their version of accelerationism, is to destroy the system, concentrate all power, and hope they redistribute it to the right people. Maybe. If you look at what's going on in New York, it might seem obvious, right? In New York, that's what they went with all of their communist stuff. So here they are. But the problem is, you get communists. So you get this Avilia Chevalier, right? She's on Jen Psaki's show yesterday. And here she is saying, I can barely afford to live in New York after being in college half my life. Not exactly inspiring. Not exactly inspiring, right? And you get many more of these ones exactly the same. That's why Trump comes out. And now, if you look at all the wins they got through Mamdani in New York City, first of all, let's just enjoy, right, that we saw Goldman lose. We saw the Kennedy, the homosexual. I don't have a problem with homosexuals. But the homosexual Kennedy didn't make it, right? So he came in fourth or something. Imagine being the only grandson of JFK and you can't come in higher than fourth place in a Democrat primary. And George Conway, the Jabba the Hutt of politics himself, beat him. Crazy. I mean, the sloppiest looking person in American politics. And, he's a gay, but he's a handsome gay, the Kennedy grandson. He couldn't beat George Conway, the ugliest guy I've ever seen in politics. I'm not trying to look shame anyone, right? That's not what I'm trying to do. It's just a fact. He's not an attractive guy. His wife's beautiful. I don't know how he pulled her, but there you go. So Trump coming out and, doing Trump's thing. So now it's a race, right? It's a race. Is it going to be the builders or the communists? We've used this frame for a long time to tell you we wouldn't be in left, right anymore. We're in communism versus builders, the makers, the takers. The Bitcoin worldview, where I think 90-something% of Bitcoiners would be very happy if financial engineers didn't have a future, and would be very happy if the highest paid job in society was cattle rancher. That, as an example, not necessarily cattle rancher, but something along those lines. Food, health, blah, blah, blah. So Trump comes out, and first of all, you just get a sense of his political timing, and what he talks about here. He says the communists are finally making their move. I've been waiting and preparing for this for a long time. It's easy to be a communist. All you have to do is say, I'll give you everything. But that means you're taking it away from others who have earned it. Over thousands of years, that ideology has not worked once. The game is on. Enjoy watching President Trump. And here he is with Roy Cohn. I guess Roy Cohn was on Joseph McCarthy's business, or in his when he was looking for the communists. I didn't know he prosecuted the Rosenbergs either and served as Joseph McCarthy's chief counsel. Trump isn't kidding. Trump probably has been preparing for this his whole life. So great to see. But remember, if it is a race, right, here's the maker taker frame again. Jason Kalkanis says they're communists. They have never worked a day in their lives. They've never built anything except a list of complaints. They're takers. We're builders. Important. And this is a Democrat, anti-Trumper, don't forget, right? So important to understand why they're winning and fix those things via capitalism and free markets. Lack of affordable housing, affordability, college debt, affordability, universal healthcare, affordability, inflation, affordability, wages, affordability, endless, pointless wars, forever pointless wars policy. Again, the greatest news here is that these are all the things Bitcoiners have been telling you about. Capital allocation. So Bitcoiners being on the side of the builders literally have the answers to all of these problems. The Bitcoin fixes this meme powerful in this case. And all the sludge people have is the news. The news, are you a communist? Right? That's not really going to work. Kind of stupid. And Mike Solana here saying, here's the Mediasan talking about these people saying all of four of JFK's grandparents were the children of immigrants, and he himself faced massive anti-Catholic bigotry when he ran for office. Don't let these bigots of today gaslight you. And that's what they're saying. But I don't think women who said she wipes her hands on the American flag is the same as JFK, actually. Here, Trump also talking about JFK's fight against communists here yesterday, also putting this up, talking about how it was a threat in our country, that they've been working for this for a long time. And of course, we know they have. But that's why the Democrats in this case have become, the civil war that they've got inside their party. They've lost it. It's over. The civil war has been won by the communists. Now, we'll talk about that in a second, but here's their version of, stealing the money. But all this stuff, they did rent control yesterday. Mamdani gets his new folks that are going to become congressmen that he backed. In New York yesterday, he did the rent stabilization. Of course, it's all 44% going to people born outside of the United States. Again, this is not going to help them win Americans. And again, why this is happening. Yesterday, Trump also won his case. I almost never predict Supreme Court outcomes. Trump will lose this case. You can go back to my April 16th episode and see we made this fake news. And this is about if foreigners in America have the same rights as Americans and whether or not they can be deported. Supreme Court yesterday came down and said, yes, of course, they can be deported. They do not have the same rights as native-born Americans. So I got to close a couple of these. And so Mamdani comes out yesterday as well and says he's going to protect all of the foreigners, right? So he does the same thing as that woman at the Italian pool. I don't know if you guys saw that video. A guy from Africa comes in and starts whacking off in front of kids at a pool. And so a bunch of men beat his ass. But then some liberal woman comes and stops him from winning the fight, from beating him up. Like she's got to protect him or something. Really funny. Funny. So right away, Mamdani comes out and says he's going to protect the Haitians and the Syrians following SCOTUS. But again, we're in this world of building. And this is the schism the Democrats have to deal with now. More and more people trying to help foreigners while Americans are suffering is just not a winning strategy. You're not going to get new people. Some suicidal empathy people might be for that, and there's the people who hate white people as well. But not going to be enough, right? Not really winning. So here he says, first a little, then a little bit more, then a lot. Finally, you end up with an Indian mayor of New York who refuses to recognize the existence of the federal government and the authority of the Supreme Court. All of this was predictable and could have been stopped easily. But it's what you like to see, right? And here's the civil war inside the Democrats. Mamdani hates Democrats. And many people picking up on it that they've lost, right? Traditional Democrats from Matt Taibbi are finished. Their card is punched. They will be replaced or more likely absorbed by a Mamdani-led Democrat socialist bureaucracy in short order. And that looks like what's going on. And again, this is why Americans and Trump is happy about it and why he's going to war. There's a reason why Republicans nationwide are licking their chops, because what is true in New York City in a Democrat primary isn't true nationwide. 27 points underwater, Democrat Socialists of America are in the net favorable rating, not popular at all among voters. And so this is how Trump is going to get his majority. And if you look at what happened on the Republican side of the Civil War, Trump completely won. Right here, you've got Tucker, and he's doing an interview in England, and he's asked about Elon Musk, and they give the old sludge person line that he's undermining Britain's democracy, and Tucker just starts laughing, which is the only way to handle them. Democracy. You guys don't have a democracy, he says. And she says, we do, we have one. This is the best they could do. They don't even know what's going on. They don't even know what is happening. They've completely lost the Civil War. The Republican Civil War is Tucker laughing at the other side, not really even attacking Trump in this case, and in general can't really. He lost all of his fights against Trump. So again, I don't think you're going to have any trouble with this stuff. And it looks like the Democrat Civil War is going to take more casualties than the Republican Civil War did. So the realignment is here politically. We are now in the builders versus the communists frame. Whether, you get him saying he's not with the GOP, but he doesn't really make a difference inside of the GOP. He might get an audience for some anti-Israel stuff over with the Democrats. But again, we're in a race. It is a race. Is it accelerationism that will tear down Wall Street and replace it with energy build out the way Bitcoiners want, the way Bitcoiners have been working for, in an environment and an economy and an incentive model that we understand, that we know, that we get, in a vision of the future that we've been working at from the very beginning, using financial engineering to destroy financial engineering. And so in that model, right, it's normal that there is going to be this much volatility. If you're using financial engineering to destroy financial engineering, you shouldn't be surprised along the way if financial engineering isn't working the way it worked a generation ago. And that's what we see, versus the accelerationism of the libtards, which is break welfare by extra welfare. Well, they broke it so bad that, and now they're just giving it to foreigners with the fake voting and the fake elections, that it isn't persuasive anymore. You've just got the fake news as their backers, and that isn't powerful enough anymore. So the civil war inside the Democrats is breaking the whole thing apart, realigning politics, and making it so that American builders versus communism are not just going to be a thing where they're rich and you want to be like them. There's conquering about to happen. There's winning that's about to happen. And again, people align with winning. People align with the winners. If the building is better than the stealing, if there's more advantage, if you get free electricity because of the builders versus rent control in New York, but everything else still sucks. And because rent control only affects rent, it doesn't affect the water bills, the electrical bills, air conditioning. You have to have a new strategy. None of that works, right? So the benefit of each of the systems is really what will determine who wins. The benefit of this energy build out is so great and so golden agey that it is what's going to win. It's going to produce more people on that side. And it's going to create mythological heroes. I mean, just look at this one here. Look at this, right? This is what you're about to see in Turbo. This is the now Undersecretary of the Navy, the head of the largest navy the world has ever known, who is a first generation Vietnamese boat person who ran away from North Korean communism, where they already had the North Vietnamese communism, where you already had the communist versus the capitalist framework that now we have in America as well. And here he is, right? What a fucking photo. Hung Chau's family fled the Vietnamese communists as refugees. He returns to meet with the Vietnamese communists as emissary of the most powerful empire in world history, acting secretary of the United States Navy. It's like a biblical story. Joseph's brothers sell him into slavery, and he returns to them as the powerful representative of the Pharaoh. Amazing. Even here, like, how are they going to get through this? You got Gavin Newsom. He's locked into this communist civil war inside the Democrats. And here he is out there saying that now he's crying that the right media ecosystem is too strong. And he doesn't see that on MSNBC. Okay. Again, it's a zero. It's a zero persuasion. Communists believe this. And when they say this, because the communist believes all things belong to him. If there's a hint of programming counter of the revolution, he thinks it's an egregious injustice, and it's why they're going to lose, right? And it's why they're going to lose on a number of levels, right? Even just the entertainment of this change that we're going through. Yesterday, we saw Elon Musk post the entire Citizen Vigilante movie online so people can watch it. And now, right, they're crying that there's political messages in movies now. So the left-wing mind is just too weak to be able to handle this kind of change. They're not even focused on building and doing all that stuff. So we're on our way, guys. We are on our way home here. Okay. I gotta book it in a minute, but I'm gonna read some comments. Good morning, Bitcoiners. Jevy in the house. Nice to see you. Matt in the house. Thumbs up with the sun up. Morning, Nolan. Morning, Tough Cookie. Hope you're doing well. I'm gonna change my screen share to go back to your comments, and we're gonna say goodbye. Have a good weekend right after that. Have you seen the movie yet, gang? Stevie Van, I have not. I've only watched a bunch of clips. No, that's not true. I turned on the first I don't know, 20 minutes last night before I went to bed, now that I think of it, and then just fell asleep at whatever 9:30. So there you go. I love waking up laughing, just makes my day so much better. Thanks, Nolan. Seriously, you got it, Chef Zero. What a way to gauge currency by the price of bud. This guy's a genius. Hire him immediately. A double dime bag. Yes, still $20. I thought you said bimetallism. My brain mind was starting to overheat. Gram of weed. $20 in high school. Same price now. Yeah. I mean, it was like $10 around my part. Bitcoin is dead. I tell you in a feed about a French bus driver without AC crashing due to the heat. I'll check that out. I will check that out. Hella based. Yeah. I watched the movie last night on Twitter. It was good. Yeah. Thanks for another great show. You got it, everyone. Gavin is so grumpy. There you go. Communists do not build anything. Well, that's the point. And I mean, you can even see, for example, with Venezuela, the tragedy that's there. Watched last night, pretty good, but graphic. Yeah, I saw the graphic scenes already, so that's why I haven't really bothered with the movie. The graphic scenes were online before. So the Venezuela tragedy, obviously, I mean, unreal. Now, the good thing, and I said this in LA last year, the good thing, you want to mourn the loss that's still going on. It looks like it's going to be absolutely terrible in Venezuela. But like I said about LA, the good sign is the rebuilding is going to bring along with it new opportunities to persuade with the building framework that we have here. Just look what it's done to LA. I mean, Spencer Pratt is not possible unless the failure and accelerationism, right, that comes with it. So this is about accelerationism. The old world is gone. And the communists have a plan. It's Cloward-Piven. It's a form of accelerationism. Overwhelm the system. Use the broken system to get your authority. Well, we're going to break the financial system. We're going to do regime change. We're going to completely wipe that out. And we're going to rebuild it, not with stealing people's money, but by building new energy capacity. The world that Bitcoiners already understand, the world we've been working in. So it is a battle of conviction. And this is all about the conviction. This is all about worldviews, narratives, and how we get there. Gavin Gruesome, I like that. Yeah, I've been loving all the Taylor Sheridan shows. They don't like when Republican writers play their game. No, thanks, Nolan. Have a nice weekend, everyone. Indeed, everyone. I got to get over to Brandon Gentili. I'm going to be on his podcast right now. We're going to be recording, so you should be able to see that in the next couple of days. I will likely do the Canadian show this afternoon. Likely. I have not confirmed yet with my partner in crime. If he's not around, I will not. But if he is, I'll do. But we are going to keep it going regularly. It's a good one for me to get some guests in the afternoon. So there you go. All right, folks. Peace out. Have a great weekend. I'm going to play the thanks for watching screen in a second. I just want to tell you, thanks for watching. Peace.